Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, our guest of the day is Suzanne Evans of UKIP, writer of the 2015 and now the 2017 UKIP manifesto. At every election, we're used to hearing that her party is on the verge of a parliamentary breakthrough. Of course, it's still yet to happen. Could this be their moment? Party's had some success, currently holding 5 seats in the Welsh Assembly. But UKIP has also faced an array of problems, most of them self-inflicted. After last year's referendum, MEP Diane James was elected as leader, but she stood down after only 18 days, saying she didn't have the support of her colleagues. Eventually, she resigned from the party altogether. Cue another leadership race and another resignation. This time, frontrunner Stephen Woolfe left the party after he was left unconscious during an altercation with a fellow UKIP MEP. MEP Paul Nuttall was eventually elected as UKIP Supremo, but was then caught out about achievements on his CV and had to apologise after falsely claiming he had lost close friends in the Hillsborough disaster, all of which helped scupper his campaign in the Stoke by-election. He was described as weak by the party's millionaire donor Aaron Banks, before Mr. Banks was subsequently elbowed out during a row about his membership status. He vowed to set up UKIP 2.0 and, quote, destroy the party. And the troubles kept coming. Their only MP, Douglas Carswell, then resigned from the party to sit as an independent, though many in UKIP weren't sorry to see him go. And this month, former Tory, Mark Reckless, he's now a Welsh Assembly member, he resigned from UKIP to sit as independent but vote with the Conservative group in the Senedd, the Welsh Assembly. So, what a mess.
Thank you for reminding me of all that. I'd have completely forgotten if it wasn't for you telling me, Andrew.
It's a kind of just never-ending nightmare, isn't it?
Well, it's not been our moments of glory, has it really? Let's be honest. But, you know, I think we're in a situation now where Article 50 has been triggered. There's no doubt that getting out of the European Union was UKIP's reason for being. That was our primary goal. Inevitably, I think there's going to be a period of reflection and reconsideration when it looks like somebody else has picked up that ball and run away with it. But what I'd say to people is we're not out yet, and those people who are saying that UKIP is finished, UKIP's job is done, I'd say, well, no, until the fat lady sings on Brexit, if you like, we are still in, we still have to get out. Right. There's still this debate about hard, soft Brexit. I'd say there is just Brexit. Right,
but I mean, people like you and many other UKIP people always tell me in these sort of interviews that your job is to hold the government's feet to the fire over Brexit.
Well, I think it is.
You see your role.
Yes.
But when you've just seen that litany of woes I've gone through, you've done more to set yourselves alight.
Well, in some senses, I can only agree with you. You know, we have, in some senses, I think, shot ourselves in the foot. But that doesn't mean that we don't have a job to do and that we mustn't do our best to carry on doing that job.
But I wonder if there is a role now, because Mrs May is going to go to the country and she will repeat her Brexit strategy and the broad outlines of what she aims to achieve in the negotiations. And if she wins, she will have a mandate to carry that out. Whether you like all the details or not, she has the mandate, if she wins, to do it. So I think even your role of holding their feet to the fire seems to have been scuppered by this election.
Well, I disagree. I mean, my concerns about if Theresa May comes back with a massive Tory majority, my concern is that when you have huge majorities in government without any serious opposition, a sort of dictator mentality comes in. And I think there's a touch of that in Mrs May. You know, we're hearing she's not going to take part in the television debates. It's like, well, I'm just going to do what I like.
She's
anyway,
a dictator.
Carry on. I didn't say that. I said perhaps
you said a touch of a dictator.
A touch of a dictator.
Well,
like we had Tony Blair in 97, you know, massive Labour majority, Tory party completely depleted, decisions made without any real opposition that scuppered and left a terrible legacy for people for successive generations. I'm not terribly keen on majority governments precisely for that reason.
But if you had, just for the sake of argument, let's accept just briefly the elected dictatorship argument, if you were to have any role in putting some constraints on this self-described elective dictatorship, You would need more than 1 or 2 MPs, otherwise you'd be irrelevant.
Well, I know this is what people tell me all the time, but before we had any MPs, we were extremely relevant. We managed to get a referendum on the table.
On that issue.
Others too, Andrew. It's quite
But if you're not in Parliament, you can't hold the government to account.
Well, one of the things that we'll be looking at in our 2017 manifesto is all those policies that UKIP put forward in our manifesto, that or the Tory handbook, as some people are calling it, that the Conservative Party has now gone with. I think we still...
Well, so you're even more irrelevant then if they've nicked your policies.
It depends how you define relevance, isn't it?
Well, if they've nicked your policies, even your non-EU policies are now being pinched by them.
I'd say actually that makes us very relevant if we can put forward ideas that other parties are prepared to run with.
But why vote for the monkey when you can have the organ grinder?
Because you don't know that the organ grinder is actually going to play the tune that they say they would have played.
But she will have a mandate to do so, as I say, if she wins.
I hope so.
If she gets it, then in a sense what you think doesn't matter anymore, because the government will be able to say if it's re-elected and if it wins with a big majority as well. If it's a small win, then all sort of things will happen. But she then has a mandate, and what you think is surely irrelevant.
Let's see what the Tory manifesto says. You know, it's all very well to say you're going to control immigration, but Theresa May failed to do that when she was Home Secretary. Never came anywhere near the tens of thousands, just went up and up and up, including non-EU immigration over which she had control. She said she wants to release us from the European Courts of Justice. Does that mean we're going to pull out of the European arrest warrant, or are we still going to have people imprisoned overseas without trial? I'd like to see the details of what she comes up with.
But the failure of the government to hit its immigration figures has been apparent now for 6 years. We're probably into the 7th. The issue of the European arrest warrant has been around for at least 6 more years as well. And yet you've made all these points and you still have no MPs. I mean, you're not getting anywhere.
Well, let's wait and see, shall we?
We're always waiting and seeing and nothing happens.
Yeah.
And when you get an MP, they either leave or they defect to become independent, or in the case of Mr. Carswell this morning, they decide not to stand again.
Stand again, yeah. Well, maybe Douglas was clearly thinking about that anyway, I'd suggest. But just because we don't have any MPs is not going to stop us trying, Andrew.
I understand that, and many parties all over the world have to try. They don't
of course.
have MPs or only 1 or 2. Mr. Nuttall talked about rebranding the party. What does that mean?
I don't know. I think a lot of people talk about rebranding.
You are writing the manifesto, you told me.
Yeah, but that's not the rebrand, is it?
Well, except the content
different.
Of the manifesto should surely reflect
I see what you mean. I think he was talking about rebranding, logo, that sort of thing.
Or get rid of the Union flag?
That's not going... Well, the pound sign is our current
logo.
The
pound sign, sorry.
I like the pound sign very much. I hope we don't get rid of it. I don't like the yellow. I like the purple. Sorry, I'm sounding very girly now, but you know, I think that's...
Sounds like you are doing a bit of rebrand.
What we're doing in September.
I guess the issue is UKIP began as something of a threat to the Tories in the South. Yeah. And I think that was one of the reasons why Mr. Cameron did move to a referendum. It then started to think we could be even more of a threat to Labour in the North without ceasing to be a threat in the South. But when you look at the South now, and look at Mrs. May's position and the fact that the country did vote for Brexit and that she's taking a line that so far you by and large approve of.
Well, on that one issue.
In the Brexit
one issue, yeah.
Disaffected Tory voters who went to you are probably almost certainly just going to go back to the Tories in the South, and the Stoke by-election showed that you're not really getting the Labour votes in the North.
Well, I think we can. I remember the very first interview I ever did for Daily Politics when everyone was saying that UKIP was only hoovering up the Tory vote. I said, actually, I disagree. I think our future lies in those Labour heartlands. Personally, I think we need to focus on both. And my manifesto will once again, UKIP's manifesto will once again look to be both. It will be that common sense party that appeals to both those on the left and the right, because it is common sense, because it's policies that will benefit everyone in the country. You
said there was a touch of the dictator about Mrs. May, but weren't you the one last November that wanted judges to be sacked?
No, I didn't want judges to be sacked.
Yes, you did.
No, I've been terribly misquoted on this. What I was talking about is about the fact that our judiciary is pretty much completely unaccountable, and I think there should be much more scrutiny when it comes to judicial appointments, for instance. We've been talking earlier in the programme about the elites, and the elites kind of replicate themselves, and there's perhaps nowhere that's more evident than in the judiciary. So that won't... Sacking judges won't be in the manifesto? Will not be in the manifesto, I can guarantee that, no. There you go, you heard it here first. I've been getting